All right, the one DNA. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, JR. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks
Woo!
for our live studio audience definitely here. So yeah, thank you for being on the show. I think this is I'm rearranging the season, so you're guest number one on season two. So you have the
Nice.
revamped rapid fire questions. It'll be a lot of fun.
Okay, very excited.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a lot of fun. I really wanted you on the show because, like I mentioned in our pre-recording, I tried to get a lot of people in my first two seasons of one who I respected, two had really good accomplishments and unique careers and stories, and I feel like you epitomize that at least from the people I know. And again, like I consider you a friend because it's gonna be easier to get friends on my show, and it's like no proof of concept, right? So I'm like, all right, who do I know who I simultaneously like, respect, and are accomplished, and who will be on my show? So I'm grateful that you accepted. So
I am honored that you even thought of me. So
yeah,
thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
yeah, thank you. So like I'll start off with how I know you.
Sure.
So I believe we connected after one of the tech festivals several years back, right?
Yes.
And then you invited my girlfriend and I to your live show in 2021 near the end of it, which was amazing.
Thank you.
I had heard you sing on stage before, but then hearing you sing like live in this show that was just all about you was my girlfriend and I were like, wow, he's a singer. Like, Filipinos, we like singing and it's fun.
And y'all have standards.
Yeah, so yeah. And Blessy's actually trained. I just do it for fun.
She
But then
is.
when then we're like listening to you, we're like, okay, we don't actually sing. He sings. So you're amazing. And then later on the next year, you invite us to your birthday for karaoke, which was a lot of fun. But again, you had your own music video. So we're like, damn, this guy's legit. And then we also went clubbing after that. And so it was a lot of fun. And since then, I've been following your career. And you've been doing a lot of good stuff. And like
Thank
I
you.
said, you're one of those people who I know personally who are like doing something that they're passionate about, do something that they enjoy. And I think a lot of people like we need to see people like that, right? Because it's easy to just get into like, okay, well, society tells me this and I should do this. But if when you see someone like you going after something that they want, I feel like it's very inspiring. So that's how I see you. And you've been doing a lot of stuff. And I think you launched a new album recently. Am I mistaken?
You are not mistaken. You
Okay,
are
cool.
correct.
Nice.
Wow, what an introduction.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to follow up with
Yeah.
that. No, but seriously, to answer that little or segue rather
Mm.
into the first point of discussion, yes, I just released my debut Vietglish EDM EP on all streaming platforms. So Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Pandora, wherever you stream your music, it's on there. And yeah, it's been about a month now, and honestly, the reception that I've been getting and still been receiving has been phenomenally positive. I'm super grateful for all the love and support that I've been getting, and I just feel very blessed to be doing what I do. So yeah,
Nice.
thank you,
I
thank you for
love
that.
that. Anything else that I left out of like, well, that's mostly just our journey. Before this, I would have already read your bio. Any other clarifications or things that you're up to that you want to throw in before we start?
Yeah, sure. Just like upcoming things going on in my
Sure.
life.
Yeah. Why not?
Well, I don't know if I should reveal so
Oh,
soon.
oh yeah. You don't have to. We can save it for later.
Okay, we'll save it for
Cool.
later.
Nice. All right. So let's just start off. I want to go into first like your journey as an indie artist. But maybe just for some context for the listeners, like who maybe don't know who you are, like could you give us like a little bit about your background, like where you grew up and like what
Sure.
was that like? And then eventually how did you get into singing and wanting to pursue this as like your thing?
Yeah. So I was actually born in Australia, minus the accent. Good, I might no,
Nice.
sorry, that was so bad. Never again. No, but I was born in Australia, and my family and I moved here. I have two younger brothers. We moved halfway across the world to California, the American dream, about 15 years ago. So I was like barely a sophomore in high school. And one of the main reasons why my family and I we made the executive decision to move to the U.S. is my parents they wanted to support my music career. Growing up, I was always immersed and very involved with music and entertainment. And I'm pretty sure I brought this up to you when we first started talking, but to the viewers here watching 1,000 Gurus, I started singing for as long as I could remember, probably when I was like 5 or 6. And I knew I wanted to pursue it professionally when I was 10. And I've been holding on to that dream ever since. And yeah, definitely a lot of experiences, definitely many challenges, many blessings, and all of those things I wouldn't trade it for anything else. And yeah, and also my parents, I guess they felt kind of like stagnant where they were in Australia with their work and everything. So my parents, they took the leap of faith. They took a major risk, mind you, and we all packed our bags and moved here. And as for me personally, I've just been like grinding and hustling, chasing my aspiration of being an artist. Yeah.
Nice. That's pretty cool that your parents were very supportive of your like singing career. Were there any specific influences? So you said you knew you wanted to be a singer at like
hmm
10.
hmm
Were there any other like influences that kind of you felt like guided you towards that direction, or was it just like, yeah, regardless, I'm gonna be singing?
I'm glad you brought this question up because truthfully, back in the day, there wasn't much AAPI representation. So to be honest, like there weren't many people, within my age group at the time that I could look up to. Now it's a totally different story, which is
Right.
great.
Yeah.
Like AAPI representation is everywhere, and we love that. But I guess from the top of my head, like seeing like young prodigies, I guess like Justin Bieber, for example, and people within his um, I don't know how to word it, but you know what I mean.
Hmm.
Yeah, just seeing artists like him really like take form, it really inspired me, and I'm like, you know what? If someone like him can do it, then maybe I could do it too.
Mm.
And yeah, growing up, I knew I've always wanted to do this, and it's kind of like keep your eyes on the prize. And I knew that I wanted to do something related to music. And for me, I always love being on stage. I always love to perform. I love interacting with the crowd. It just really makes me feel whole and safe. And yeah, so I've been doing it all my life, and I really can't picture a day where I live without it. To be honest
Yeah.
with you,
I can
so
see that. Like if you ever watch him on stage or any of the videos, you can tell that it's like, oh, that's where he's meant to be. Like
I
you
feel
look
like that's
very
like my
comfortable.
element.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a fish in water, right? Like it feels natural there. Did you ever, and maybe you don't have an answer to this, or maybe there wasn't ever one, but like, did you ever feel like there was an alternate career path that you might have gone or like pursued your passion?
I don't think so.
Mm.
I mean, like, maybe in the back of my head, like, I sorta had, like, a semi plan A, like, A.1,
Mhm.
but then what I've learned is that and this might be a toxic mindset, who knows, and maybe, like, I'm, like, unconsciously trying to, like, unwire, based on what society has taught us, but if you have a backup plan, that means that you don't believe in your primary plan enough,
Mm.
and I guess, like, that kinda stuck, and especially, like, me being so involved in music at such a young age, mind you, that's all I ever really thought about. Like for me, my life had to be around music no matter what. And, knowing that my parents and my entire family moved halfway across the world, you know, in many ways, I want to make them proud too,
Of course.
because it was such a big move. Even, many of my family members at the time doubted us. And I didn't know that until like much later in life when my mom and I had a heart to heart conversation. So it was very interesting to see, familiar support and how that's grown and shifted, over the years. But yeah, it's all been such an interesting journey, very fulfilling, very gratifying, tiring at times. But again, I can't really see myself doing anything else other than music, to be honest with you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Two questions. So you
hmm
said you had two younger brothers.
I
How did
do.
they feel about moving at the time? Just
Um,
curious.
I think they're like, ugh, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. And plus, they're really young
Uh,
too. But they're chilling now, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. They're like, okay, we're
Yeah.
here
My
now.
youngest brother, he's studying art. About to transfer to Cal State Fullerton. He's so talented, by the way.
Mm.
And the middle child, he studies kinesiology at Cal State
Oh,
Fullerton. Yeah, nothing
nice.
to do with
Yeah, 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 that's
the
cool. I guess on the topic of that, like, oh, sorry, one more thing on music is, what were some of your musical influences? I'm just curious.
Mariah Carey.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I've seen her 8 times and counting.
Oh, so you're a fan then?
Oh, that would be an understatement. Yes, no. In terms of like vocal influences,
Right,
definitely
right.
Mariah Carey. You can
Okay.
hear like the inflections.
Mm.
Mariah Carey, Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato, Bruno Mars, Michael Jackson, like those powerhouse singers.
Mm.
Um, but actually, interestingly enough, I was first exposed to Viet music long before Western music. So I had my Vietnamese vocal influences growing up. So yeah, let's just say that it became a huge melting pot for me. And because I was so immersed with both the Vietnamese and the Western music elements at such a young age, it's also it also plays an influence to towards my EDM EP that I just released about a month ago. And I wrote all my songs. I write all my songs, But for this specific album, I wanted to pay homage, a tribute to Vietnamese culture and my heritage. So I wrote, I really do take pride because I'm really not like the best, not the most fluent in terms of Vietnamese, but I really do try. But I do take pride knowing that I wrote all those songs in Vietnamese and English pretty much like all on my own. I mean, I would only use Google Translate to like confirm like one or two lines, but pretty much I wrote it all on my own.
Wow,
So yeah,
that's impressive.
yeah, I'm quite proud of
Yeah.
it.
Maybe we'll get into this later, but like
Sure.
this dude can sing in multiple languages. You sang, you know some like Tagalog songs, right?
Oh my gosh, Filipino culture, Filipino music, Filipino food. Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this dude is a very like what's it called? In a lot of different cultures and gets like learns about them, gets inspired by them and appreciates them. So I think
Absolutely.
that's a really good thing to do, especially like as a singer. Like you can't just stick to like one thing if you need to grow as an
Mhm,
artist, right? Like
mhm.
being exposed to a lot of different things.
Right. You can't be in a box.
Exactly. You can't be
Mhm.
in a box. So maybe this is like a bigger question, but I'm curious if you had any answers. Like,
Sure.
what are some of the challenges of being an indie artist? And then, do you have any advice for people who have aspirations to like sing professionally in a similar sense?
Sure. Well, one of the biggest challenges right off the bat, finance.
Mm,
Unless you have all the money in the world, it is hard to
mm,
like stay on track.
yeah.
And you also have bills to pay too, you know? And being indie artists, especially like during your formative years, however you want to put that, things can feel uncertain at times. And this leads me to the next part of that question. What has honestly kept me grounded and stayed afloat and pretty much um prevented me from like throwing in the white towel and saying, nope, I can't, like I give up,
Mhm.
is knowing that deep inside intrinsically that music defines me. Music is what I want to do. It's the passion and that burning desire that I have towards music is what's been keeping me going all these years. Otherwise, I would have given up like years ago.
Mm.
Yeah, and again, I want to make my parents proud, and I want to inspire like other people who are like me, or even not like me.
Mhm.
Like anyone has a dream and aspiration they want to like pursue and chase, go for it. You only live once, right? And the only person that's really stopping you is yourself.
Of course.
And easier said than done because the inner thoughts in my head that I get sometimes, it can be pretty loud, like the doubts that I have in my head. But again, just knowing the love that I have for music can really trump and overpower all those negativity, all that negativity.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Any specific advice you'd like to give to people who want to pursue singing? Like, so you said finances, obviously. So I don't know if you had any advice on how to overcome that, or even the doubts in your head. You
Sure.
said essentially, like, I know I want to do this. It's my passion.
There is no shame in having a day job to stay afloat.
Oh, okay, there's good.
I know over the years, like, after, you know, watching like podcasts and interviews, like sometimes there's that toxic culture, like, oh, you gotta grind, and which is all great, but like living paycheck to paycheck, like living off of like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I'm like, that's no way to live. And for me, like, food fuels you. And if you don't have that fuel, how can you get creative? How can you get
How can
inspired?
you do your best work?
Exactly, exactly. Like I get it, it's inspiring, it's admiring and all that stuff, but is it practical? No. If you have the ability to, and if you have the means to, go get a day job.
Mm,
You need to stay afloat. You have responsibilities, you have bills to pay. And if you have a family, you have a family to feed. Right. So um, for me, I do have a day job. I currently work with people with developmental disabilities, and I love it so much. I honestly don't even consider it a job
mm.
because I love being out there in the community. It's keeping me afloat. It's helping me pay rent on top of my performances. So yeah, so that would be my advice. There's no shame in holding a day job to keep you afloat while simultaneously hustling behind the scenes with your career path. And honestly, just to really develop a strong psyche, especially in this industry, having optimal mental health is so important. There are so many barriers, so many challenges that could break you in this industry. It's really tough. And you being a dancer yourself, being in the entertainment industry, I'm sure you can understand and relate to some degree. So always, always optimize and prioritize your mental health, no matter what it takes. Yeah.
Nice. That is the real. Okay.
Exactly.
Perfect.
That's the
Thank
tea.
you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So like sort of pivot, but not really.
Mhm.
So you mentioned in like the notes when I asked about topics that you made a pivot towards like EDM and
Yes.
then also like adding Vietnamese elements into your work. And I think
Mhm.
you touched upon that a little bit. There's that, and then also you have you formed a band, New Tradition,
Mhm.
and then also a little bit later on, your nonprofit Vietnamese Creatives Collective.
Mhm.
So, what were some of the factors in the decision to do all of those things? We can tackle it one at a time if you
Sure.
want. Yeah, let's start with that.
Yeah. So let's start with New Tradition. So actually, it was kind of like a happy accident. That band wasn't supposed to happen,
Mm.
like in terms of being a long-term gig. So what happened there was probably like last December. Like everything just feels like one giant day clumped together. I
Yeah,
lost
yeah.
track of time. I think it was last December. A friend of mine who's a talented musician, his name's EJ. Shout out to EJ if you're watching this. He and I, we wanted to do a show together. Actually, I hit him up. I was like driving home and I had an idea. I was like, you know, I kind of want to do a show again. And I hit EJ up and I was like, hey, would you be down to do something together, like co-headline a show? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm down. And then I'm like, okay, how about, we try to like form a band. And then with like my music connect and his music connects, we banded together and we picked out who we felt would be best suitable for this show. And thinking that would be just like a one-time thing. Oh, like we get together, we practice, we perform, and then remain friends, and that's it. One time done deal. But I'm telling you, and this is something that I tell the guys constantly, like the people in the band. There's 7 of us. After the second rehearsal, I remember just sitting there to myself thinking, what am I thinking? This has to be a permanent thing. I can't just like let these guys go. Like they are so talented, and knowing what they're capable of, I'm like, I gotta talk to these guys. And then after like a few rehearsals, we had a conversation. I'm like, okay, so where are our heads here? Do you see ourselves being like a one-time thing, like do the May show, get over and done with, because the show happened in May, or write it out and see how it goes, see how far it goes? And I guess all of them unanimously decided, yeah, we all vibe,
Mm.
we all create great music together. Let's do this thing. And so kind of glad that we did that because we were able to land such amazing opportunities. We had DCA. We performed at Disney California Adventure for Lunar New Year, and then later, oh, it was actually this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So this
Whichever
February, yeah,
year, yeah.
this February we did Lunar New Year at Disney California Adventure, and then several months later for AANHPI Heritage Month, we did Downtown Disney.
Mm,
So
nice.
I'm glad we weren't a one-time
Yeah.
thing.
What do you think like makes what's like the secret sauce to like making a good band? I know this is like one instance, but you said that they were very talented. You said you guys had like good chemistry or vibes. Do you think there's anything else that like made it stand out that like, okay, we should definitely do this as like a longer term thing?
I think just seeing like the desire and just being around like-minded people, just being in that room, just being in one room with that energy like emanating from like wall to wall. It's a feeling that you can't really describe. You just have to be in there to experience it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then also communication. Because there's so many of us, there's 7 heads, 7 minds like gearing, wiring, whatever. Obviously, there's gonna be times where you'll bump into challenges, creative differences, personal challenges. And if you don't bring up these issues, it'll catastrophize into something that could have been prevented. So communication, just in anything really, is key. So yeah.
Perfect. Do you have maybe this is an apples and oranges thing, right? But
Mm.
as a solo artist or as in a group, do you have a preference for one or the other? I'm sure you get different things from different things, but like, what are your,
Good question.
yeah.
Actually, transparently, that was, I wouldn't call it an issue, but it was definitely something that we had to bring up like pretty early on because unconsciously, like it sort of happened. But after having that conversation again, communication is so important. We ultimately decided, okay, we're going to compartmentalize. The one DNA will be the one DNA, and New Tradition will be its own identity. And so far, it's been working out pretty well, to be honest with you.
Mm,
Yeah. So again, communication,
nice.
very important.
So like separate entities, and then for you, they both work out, but
Mhm.
then it's like you enjoy both in different
Yeah,
ways.
they work out so well, actually. Yeah.
Nice.
Mhm.
Okay. So anything else, do you want to go to either the Vietnamese Creatives Collective or your pivot to EDM and
You're the host.
Yeah.
You can transition to wherever.
Yeah.
I'll follow.
In case you had one that you wanted to talk about first. Okay, so what about like your pivot? So you mentioned that was like pivotal to you or one of the defining things of where you're headed towards now. So what was the reason behind that sort of direction change?
EDM music.
Yeah, EDM music.
So that actually was not part of my plan at all. Like for real.
Yeah. What, things didn't go according to plan? That's crazy. I'm kidding.
That's just the beauty of life,
Yeah,
though, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Of course.
Keeps you on your toes. No, but seriously, I will say though, up until recently, like 2 years ago, 3 years even, I was more or less closed-minded with the EDM scene just because, like, at the time, like, my way of thinking, I would always associate EDM with, like, like, toxic culture
Mhm.
and all that stuff. But then my ex-boyfriend, a couple years ago, we were up in San Francisco. He lives up in the Bay Area. He took me to, like, my first ever music festival, and there were a bunch of DJs, um, who played that night.
Do you remember what it was called?
I forget.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday, to be
Yeah.
honest.
You're like, I don't know.
No.
That was too far.
Yeah, but I remember just, like, standing there. Dylan Matthew performed, that night,
Mm.
and he sang, like, his, like, smash hit, like, "Love Is Gone," and I'm just standing there, I'm like, "Oh my god, like, where have I been all this time? I feel like I've been living under a rock." I just felt so inspired just, like, by everything and everyone around me, and I kid you not, JR, like, shortly after when I came back, I remember just sitting in my room. I had an epiphany. I was like, "I kinda wanna, like, try this out." And then coincidentally, simultaneously, I was also trying to figure out ways, like a creative way to really pay homage to, like, Vietnamese culture, Vietnamese heritage. So then I'm like, okay, EDM music, like it's always in,
Mm.
especially like within our generation. How about I merge those elements alongside the Vietnamese elements and see where this thing and see where this things go, see where this thing goes. And I'm telling you, I was a little, like, skeptical, like, stepping into it at first because I didn't know what to expect. And again, like, me being in the EDM scene, like, was the last thing in my mind, to be honest with you. But it ironically became one of the most organic transitions that I've had in my entire career,
Wow.
and I'm so glad I made that call. So shout outs to my ex-boyfriend for inspiring me.
Nice.
Yeah, and I've been doing EDM music for about 2 years now, and along the way, I have met and worked with such amazing collaborators, amazing artists, musicians, and I've just been enjoying the ride, really being so involved in the process from start to finish. And yeah, I'm so looking forward to see where all this takes me and the people that I work with. Yeah, so currently, right now, my EDM EP is out. It's called Beautiful, 7 tracks. You can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, all those things.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, like, how does one transition into how would you categorize your genre before this switch? Like, is it, I don't know,
Like pop,
like pop? Okay.
R&B,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but mainly pop,
Gotcha.
which I guess, like, it explains why, like, the transition wasn't too drastic just
Gotcha.
because, like, the EDM that I do is very melodic, it's very simpy.
Mm.
So, in terms of, like melody and, like, musically, I don't think it was that drastic of a change,
Okay.
but, like, the genre itself,
Right.
yeah, I guess, like, there are certain nuances. But, yeah,
That makes sense.
I was I would identify myself as a pop artist, but even to this day, pop EDM,
Right.
yeah.
It's like not too far off.
No, I don't think so.
So, like, as a non-music person, what is that transition like in a technical or like in a terms of like you're creating the music, right? You're like producing the music, you're writing the songs or recording it. Like, how is that transition from when you were just doing pop into like EDM and like the Vietnamese elements to it? Like, is it I don't know, is it hard to like figure out like the music or do you have to work with different people or
My process has remained the same.
Mhm.
Usually, oftentimes people would ask me, "What's my songwriting process like?" It just really depends on the mood or the situation,
Mhm.
but typically, I would come up with the lyrics first. Like whatever is, on my mind, whether it be like a happy thought or a, not so positive thought,
Mhm.
I would write
Happy
it.
or not happy?
Yeah, exactly. I would write it down.
Yeah.
Anything that I'm feeling, like I'll just dump into a doc. And then from there, I would go to my keyboard and I would start doodling chords and like come up with like a top line.
Mm.
And then from there, once I have like some kind of structure, like a skeleton, is what I'd call it. Once I have some kind of foundation established, from there, I go find a producer, someone that I want to work with. I'll pitch the idea and send them the skeleton, like a rough vocal and piano track. And I'm like, here's the chord progression, here's the top line, here are the lyrics. I just need you to like zhuzh it up a little bit. Like basically put the track on steroids
Mm.
and like add your flair. And that's pretty much like my process, how I've been doing it for the past several years. And I think it's been working out pretty seamlessly.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's been great being able to work with a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah, with the
I
span of
imagine
my
it like opens up an avenue of like different people that you can collaborate with.
absolutely, absolutely, and I don't plan on stopping anytime
Yeah.
soon.
Are the like audiences that you would perform for, the people who listen to your music, is it much different from what you were doing before, or is it mostly the same? Or
Pretty similar. And also depends on like the type of event that I'm doing. Like if
right,
I'm doing, I want to make sure that whatever event that I'm performing for or at, I want to make sure that I'm, catering to them, you know, in the way that, best represents the situation.
mm,
Like for example, like if I were to perform at a Vietnamese show, then I need to tailor in a way where it would best appeal to them. So I would sing more Vietnamese songs,
mm,
or like if I'm singing to an older crowd, then maybe I can throw in like a couple songs from the '80s or the '90s, like songs that they can like vibe to and like reminisce and just have a good time. Also, obviously, like I'll throw in some like new tracks and stuff. So it just really depends. And then as for like a non-Vietnamese crowd, for example, like like people with the now generation, like our demographic, then obviously I'd throw in like more current stuff and like my own material, for example. So it just really depends.
mm.
Yeah, but you know, nothing is out of reach.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, what about some? Let's go to Vietnamese Creatives
hmm
Collective. So, what's the vision for that, and like, what are you up to with that? Like, what is the plan, and
Yeah,
like, what is it all
absolutely.
about?
So we've been around for about 2 years now. So my high school friend, her name's Kate. She actually reached out to me a couple years ago. She was like, "Hey, I've been having this idea and I want to bring it up to you about it, from one fellow creative to another." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. What's up?" And then she was like, "I've been doing a lot of thinking. Obviously, a NHPI representation, we're seeing a lot of progress, some positive strides. Obviously, there's so much more work left to be done. But compared to where we were, like just a few years back, like we've come like quite a long way. And so really happy to see like where this trajectory is taking us. All that's great. But we both like recognize that there's still a lack of Vietnamese representation in mainstream media, and we want to change that. And there's not many Vietnamese creative nonprofit organizations that really emphasize on that. A few,
Mm,
like I don't want to like diminish them
right.
or discredit. Like the organizations that we have come across and worked with, all of them have done like groundbreaking work. So shout out to them. But yeah, so Kate was like, you know what? I kind of want to make a difference. And I'm like, heck yeah, I'm down. Let's do it. Like, I'm honored that you even thought of me. So we gathered, a few of our other like creative friends and creative contacts, and we established a board, and we have since become Vietnamese Creatives Collective. And when people ask us who we are, our mission is to provide an uplifting space for AANHP, AANHPI creatives, emphasis on Vietnamese creatives, a platform to hone in and nurture their craft and to connect with like-minded people, and also to use their creative medium, whether it be like visual arts, music, storytelling, as a way to bring back and pay their respects to Vietnamese culture.
Mm,
Yeah.
I like that. So, like, what is it that I guess again as an outsider,
Mhm.
like, what is the
Everyone is welcome, by the way.
yeah, 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 of course. Like, so let's say I'm a Vietnamese creative artist, right? Like, what does this your group do for me? Is it like a community for me to help nurture my talents and to help me get out there or give guidance, or what is the I don't know how
Yeah.
to rephrase that.
Well, not I,
Yeah, yeah.
we rather, over the year, throughout the year, we would host community events, free resources, mind you. Like we try to, make it accessible, like to everyone.
Mm,
Throughout the year, we would host events. Just like early this year in August, we did a music networking and community event. We had an incredible lineup of amazingly talented Vietnamese American artists, indie artists, to come and speak to the people who attended. And then our moderator was someone from TikTok,
mm,
who's also Vietnamese American.
mm,
It was just very insightful experience, just being around like-minded people
mhm,
who are like so deeply active and involved in the industry. And yeah, so if you are an artist like trying to break into the industry, or you want to learn more, or you want to connect with more people, um, that was a great opportunity for people to do all those things. And then last year, we also did something called Real Voices. So we would emphasize more on the film industry.
mm.
So there's something for everybody in the creative world. And actually, we're gearing up to put together our annual fundraiser, which we're projecting to be in March of next year.
Mm.
hmm
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. It sounds like a space for like to connect and uplift those artists and creatives in different spaces and like allow them to be seen and know like you're not alone
And to
in what
provide
you're sharing
opportunities, to
and
help provide opportunities.
yeah, of course,
Exactly.
that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so quick pivot back to yourself.
Mhm.
So, two things. I don't know if we'll hit on this completely. Maybe we'll have a part two someday. But what, as the one DNA,
Mhm.
what do you think makes you stand out as an artist, like compared to all the other artists out there? Again, not diminishing anyone else, but just like
Sure.
what makes you you. If you could put that into perspective, and then two, what is like the long term vision for yourself, like in your career, like let's say 5, 10 years down the line, like if you could paint that roadmap,
Mm.
what would that look like?
In the US, at least, I think what sets me apart from other people is me writing my songs in Vietnamese and English, and me really embracing my identity as a Vietglish EDM artist. I feel like, again, here in the US at least, I don't really see many people who are doing what I do. I would love to, honestly. Like I would love to see more people, you know, kind of like take whatever it is that I'm doing and like make it their own, and then vice versa. We're constantly learning and evolving from each other. That's the beauty of art, right? We're always learning. So yeah, I think that's definitely one thing that sets me apart. Actually, fun fact: I don't know when yet, but the goal eventually is for me to live in Vietnam for a bit and check out the music industry there.
Oh,
Yeah,
have
so
you have
stay
you been
tuned.
to Vietnam?
Like 5th grade.
Oh, fifth grade. Okay, okay,
That
so
doesn't
it's been
really
a while.
count.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
gotcha.
So it'd be like my first time back whenever that happens as an adult.
Mm,
Yeah.
nice.
Mhm.
Anything else for like long term vision for you as like an artist? Like, if you could, like a princess dream sort of thing. Like, if I could make this happen in 10 years, like this is where I would like to be.
I think just to continue using my voice as a platform for something much larger and greater than music. It goes beyond the love that I have for music. Not only I want to like inspire and empower and elevate all those things. I want it to be a safe space. And one of the main themes that I talk about on my EP is mental health. Mental health is something that I prioritize constantly. And we need to continue talking about it. We need to continue having these conversations. And so I hope that the message that I develop through my music, I hope that it becomes a safe space for people so that it reassures them that, yes, like, life can be tough, adversities, obviously you can't really avoid them, but just know that everything will be okay. Yeah, no matter what, as long as you're in the right headspace, as long as you're surrounded by, like positive people, positive influences, then you'll be okay. And pain is only temporary.
Mm,
So,
nice, I
yeah.
love it.
Mhm.
All right, perfect segue now. So, last topic I want to talk about, mental health and then your own personal journey. So, I saw on an IG post recently that you made, that in so I'm just gonna read like what I was typing out. So, like in 2014, you said you came out to your parents at 17, which was a big,
Yes, I
uh,
made that post
yeah,
yesterday.
exactly,
Yeah,
yeah.
thanks for
See,
reading.
yeah, of course.
He pays attention.
I pay attention. This is my job. Okay,
You
but
don't
yeah,
you don't just doom
you
scroll.
just doing some I stalk people's LinkedIn, their Instagram, stuff like that. But, so yeah, you said it was like I imagine it's a big challenge for you, and
Mhm.
then you mentioned that, they've come a long way since then, your parents, and so I guess my question, I know a lot of people can probably relate to, like, your journey since then. My question for you is, like, what was that experience like, and, like, what perspective would you give yourself 10 years, later, like, yourself now to your, your younger self?
Can you repeat that question one
Yeah, yeah,
more
of course.
time?
So then, since then, right? Like, what was that experience like? Like going through that. Because I'm sure, like, maybe some people want to hear like what your experience was like,
Mhm.
and then also, what perspective would you give yourself,
Mm,
from your current self to your past self?
I see. Well, I will say 28, 29-year-old me now would be proud of the 18-year-old Dewey then, because the amount of courage and determination and guts that it took for me to like really proclaim and like live my truth and say it out loud to like my family, to my nuclear circle, it took a lot out of me. And I remember that day well as if it were yesterday, hence the fact that I have crappy memory. Selective memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just one of those things because oftentimes people would ask, like, oh, like, how do you know when to come out? I'm like, you just don't. Sometimes you just do it like when it comes naturally to you. Like you don't even have to like schedule it or time it, whatever. Like let it happen like as it approaches. So, with my journey, it happened on Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2014. So a little over 10 years ago, I remember feeling incredibly distraught that day. Then my dad Like he stepped into my room and then he took me to my parents' room and then they were like, not knowing what was about to unfold. I remember my dad, he was like, "Oh, anything that's troubling you, what's anything that's bothering you, you can talk to us. Like this is a safe space. We're here for you." And man, I'm like, brace yourself. So I was like, okay, mom, dad, and I kind of went on a mini tangent, which then led me to, say I'm gay, I'm attracted to men, and it got dead silent for like a good 20 seconds. It was it was pretty awkward, and then that quickly segued into you know anger, and then
On your end or on their end?
on their
Oh,
end,
gotcha, gotcha.
yeah, and I was raised Catholic, and so they brought up like the Bible and all those things, and they're like, oh, like you're a sinner, like this is wrong, like this is all wrong, like this can't be, you can't be, yeah. So it just became so tense in that room, and honestly, everything just happened so fast. Um, yeah, at that point, I was just running on autopilot, and you know, that day was over, and then but from that point on until the moment I ran away from home, honestly, like the environment was kind of hostile. But then at the same time, like they kept trying to sweep it under the rug as if the conversation never happened, which never does any good for anybody, right?
Mm.
But it's reached a point where I'm like, I feel suffocated in this house. Like I don't feel safe anymore, especially having that conversation. So I ran away from home, and then I spent a few days at my then boyfriend's parents' house at the time. And then after the fifth day, came back, and at that point, my parents and I we began focusing on like reconciliation and like repairing, I guess. And and then during that moment, I guess my parents would ask me questions like, "Oh, like so when did you know? Are you sure it's not a phase?" And I had to like plant seeds.
Mm.
I had to like reassure them that hey, like I've always known since I was like 5 or 6, and what confirmed it was when I saw Titanic, the car scene. I was looking at Leonardo and not Kate, and I was like 7 at the
Mm.
time.
Mm.
And they just kept like pestering me with these questions. But I guess I just wanted to like figure things out because it's also coming out process for them too, not just for me,
Right,
right?
right.
So it definitely took some time, but I was persistent. Any opportunity that I had to like plant seeds to have the conversation with them, no matter how uncomfortable and unsettling it was for both ends, I did it because I knew that I had to do whatever it took to really advocate for myself. At this point, it's now or never. Like I already ripped it off like a band-aid, right? There's no turning back from here. And so over time, they came around. So I'm very very blessed and fortunate to say that my parents, they support me now and they support you know, me and my identity and my career. I mean, they've always, supported my
Of
career.
course.
So I'm very privileged in that sense.
Mm.
Yeah, but it wasn't easy.
Right.
You gotta put in the work.
Of course.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific that maybe you've learned since then, or like you said, more perspective for yourself or for other people out there in a similar situation that maybe you wish you would have known or could just give yourself advice?
It's a loaded question. Okay, I like it. I think it all comes down to one thing: to not be afraid to speak your truth. Like, and even like to today, like I still struggle with it from time to time, but I am getting better at it now because like one, I'm aware. Having self awareness is so important. So I do actively try to like find like proactive, healthy ways to like to navigate through these experiences. But yeah, like I would tell my past self, yeah, like don't be afraid to speak your truth because you really only live once, and being someone who is pretty much anxiety ridden, like there have been many occasions like where I would miss out on certain opportunities because my anxiety would get in the way. And again, coming out is such a huge, like monumental like moment. You know, it was obviously very nerve wracking, but again, like I am proud of myself. I guess looking back, that I took that chance. I took the risk. I knew what the outcome like would be, at least like during that point in time. So I'm glad that I just trusted my gut and I went for it. But my advice like to other people who are going through something similar, if they're struggling to gain that acceptance and support from their nuclear family, so like their parents, siblings, even extended family members, just know that you have so much support around you. Even though like it may seem like dark and lonesome and alienating, at times, because you always want to get support from your nuclear family first, right?
Of course.
Know that a you have such a large community who will be there to guide you and help navigate you through all these experiences if you allow them to do it. Yeah, so that's what I would advise people.
I love that. And on top of that too, I found in my own like experience, like with some of my own struggles, like I'm also blessed to have my family that support me, but also you will find people, found family, friends, close friends, whatnot, like
Hmm.
people who actually care about you. They're there to support you too. You will find them or they're already there, like you said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I can consider like my closest friends like today like as my own family members too. I feel very fortunate to have them in my life, through the ups and downs, through the accomplishments, through the trials and tribulations. They experienced it all, and I I wouldn't be where I'd be without them, honestly. So yeah,
Love
thanks.
it. On mental health, I wanted to ask if you, I don't know if this is the right way to word it, right? But if you could walk us through like your mental health journey. I know like you've had your own struggles, like we all have. But what were some of the biggest realizations or perspectives that you gained throughout the years?
Well, therapy is very, very, very important. Like I can't stress that enough, honestly. And even if you feel like you're mentally stable, or if you feel like you're in a
Like you're in a good place, right?
exactly when
Yeah.
even if you feel like you're in a good headspace, you can honestly benefit from therapy. It's kind of like, if you feel like you're physically healthy, you should still get your physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because who knows, like, what happens if they discover something that you never thought you had,
Right.
right? So again, same thing applies to mental health. You want to make sure that you have these check-ins with yourself to make sure that you are doing okay. And who knows, like, and through this journey, through this process, maybe you'll help unlock like certain things about yourself like you've never discovered before in the past. It's honestly such an enlightening and more times than not, a liberating experience. So yeah, if you have the means and the access to it, I strongly optimize therapy. Therapy has helped me in so many ways. I've been in and out of therapy because, life and all that stuff. But I will say, just having that professional guidance, it really made things less difficult for me. And I'm just fortunate that I have access to, those mental health services.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Are there any particular things that maybe you've learned through your journey in therapy and like mental health that you feel like benefited you? Like any things come to mind that you'd like to share?
So not be so hard on yourself. And, especially being an artist, you are your own worst critic. And I guess that just applies like to anywhere in life, really, not just music. But yeah, like I am super hard on myself. Like after a performance, I'm always like nitpicking like every single note. And like growing up, I've always had that people pleasing mentality because how I see it, like when you're an artist, you're a performer, you want to make sure you give people what they want. You want to make sure that you appease them, right? So over time, I guess that unconsciously made me develop that people pleasing mentality. But um, not so much anymore. Thank goodness. Like we grew out of that and we've learned from it. Yeah. So I've lost my train of thought.
It's so good. On that, so we've covered a little bit of this already, but my last
Mhm.
final question is like one piece of advice you'd give to others who may be having their own mental health struggles. I know, obviously, you mentioned therapy. You mentioned like giving yourself grace.
Yes.
Anything else that you would any advice that you would like to give people who are maybe struggling in that? Maybe they don't have access to like therapy or something like that, but in that case, anything you'd like to say?
Right. I'm also very well aware that, certain areas, like certain people, certain communities might not have the best access to mental health services, which we should change. I feel like everyone, you know, each an individual person is just as entitled to have access to the same resources, right? We're all human. But, obviously that's not the reality that we live in at the moment. So on that note, even if you don't have access to therapy, there's still many avenues you can go about it. Like go out to your community, like go to your local wellness center, like like they provide like free resources, like go to like go to your friend, even just talking about it like openly, like with a trustworthy friend, sometimes like can be the right remedy for you. Because the more you bottle like your emotions, like what's that gonna do? Like it's just gonna make you feel worse, right? Like you're just gonna continue spiraling. So even if you, as long as you have that one friend to like confide in and to share your like feelings and your woes with, it can really make all the difference. You know. So in the meantime, you know, if you don't have access to therapy at the moment, find someone you can talk to, so that you don't feel alone.
Mm, I love it.
Mhm.
All right. Any last thoughts on that topic before we go to rapid fire questions, or any other topic that we might have missed?
Um,
We'll also have another check-in point at the very end if you
yeah.
have any other last thoughts. So
I
don't worry
think
about it.
for now, I have nothing on top of my head,
Perfect.
but I'll let
It's
you
all
know if I
good. It's all
remember.
good. Yeah. All right. First rapid fire question. It's the billboard question. So if you could put up a sign for millions of people to see, what would it say?
Can't I can't think off the top of my head, but I guess something along the lines of your fave Vietglish EDM artist is, and then blank. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of fill in the blank for me.
Mm,
Yeah, but something along the lines like Vietglish EDM artist. I feel like those are like strong keywords
gotcha.
because when you look at a billboard, you gotta like have certain things that like draws people's attention,
Mm,
and like, oh, like Vietglish, oh, that sparks curiosity.
mm,
EDM, oh, okay, that's cool. All right, like we'll work with that. Yeah,
okay. So it'd be like with you on it, like pointed directed to you. Is it like self plug?
I guess so.
Or is it just a big, like, a sign that says your favorite EDM Vietnamese artist, and they're like, "Wait, what does that mean?"
I mean, I guess my face would be on that billboard.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha,
yeah, yeah,
gotcha, gotcha. Yeah,
yeah.
we're all good with self plugs.
Yeah, maybe something in there, maybe a splash of something that, acknowledges my heritage, my
Mm,
culture, whatever that might be. And maybe it might be me, like, wearing an yai or something like that, who
mm,
knows? Yeah, but definitely something where I can really pay my respects, to my cultural identity.
nice.
Yeah.
All right, next question. What is one of the hardest challenges you faced in your life, and what did you learn from it? We might have covered it already, but if you had anything else.
Coming out would be one of them, and then honestly, just navigating through this music industry, it's like it's an ongoing thing, but I try to keep myself grounded. I try to be around like positive, uplifting, like-minded people. And again, it's been helping me. Again, going back to the other question, you know, talk like, whenever you go through challenges in your life, talk to someone. And easier said than done. I'm guilty of being that person. Oftentimes people be like, oh, like talk to me. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, like, I will, but I don't because I don't want to burden them. But seriously, like word of advice, like don't be afraid to speak up, whether it be like a close friend or even a family member. Yeah.
I like that.
And communication,
Yeah.
very important. So they know how to help you.
Of course.
Yeah.
There's just one quote, kind of tangentially related, but yeah, it was about trust, similar to that though. But it was trust isn't built in offering of help; it's in asking for help. And so, even from yourself, yeah, you need to ask for help and rely on other people. That's the best thing you can do. But at the same time, strengthening your relationships and building trust is also in asking for help. And some of us don't think that way. I didn't think that way
Mhm.
before because I'm like, oh, let me just offer help to people, and then we'll build our relationship. But it's like, no, also asking for help is the one that like really builds that relationship and the trust. So,
Exactly. And I feel like a lot of people, like myself included, there's a lot of pride. Like, oh, like I don't want to ask for help. Like I can handle things all on my own. But in a way, that's kind of like a destructive like way of thinking, you know?
yeah,
So yeah.
makes sense. All right. This is called the self-inflicted wound. Do you have a story or anything that's about something that went wrong in your life that's your own fault, and then you can't blame anyone else because you did it to yourself?
Oh, that it's my own
It's your
fault?
own fault. It's a self-inflicted wound. You may not have one, but just in case you do.
I guess on the top of my head, sometimes like, oh, okay, got it. I think there was like a specific performance where I wasn't vocally the best,
Mm,
and obviously you can't really redo it because what's happened. What happened? What happened has happened, and there's really no one to blame but myself. I can't blame the sound engineer. I can't blame the speakers. I can't blame the environment but myself. And just because I knew I hadn't like properly like prepared my voice up, like well enough that day, and you got to be very disciplined, because like your voice is an instrument. You got to take care of it, right? It's a muscle. So, and I love eating spicy food.
mm,
And especially before performance, you should avoid eating spicy food at all costs because it inflames your vocal cords. That alongside dairy because it produces like mucus and phlegm, and it restricts your vocal cords. I love spicy food, and so sometimes like I let that get the best of me and I cave in anyway, but I regret it later.
Mm.
So it's all about having self control, and there's a time and place for everything. I guess that would be an example. I allowed for that moment to happen. Had I been more disciplined about it, then I probably would have performed better that night. Yeah.
Nice. I like it. Um, if you could redo one thing, what would you do differently?
Hmm. Anything, right?
Mm.
Mm, let's see. Along the way, being on this earth for about 28, 29 years, I've definitely lost touch with a couple people, disconnected myself from people, maybe burned a few bridges or two, unintentionally. I think now that I'm older and, I want to say I've grown a little bit wiser, I feel like if I were to go back, maybe I would have approached things differently. Maybe I would have addressed things in a more proactive way, and then maybe the outcome would have been different. Honestly, there there are like times in my life where I would like sit and reflect and be like, "Damn, I can't believe I don't talk to this person anymore." And some of these people, like we had like a mini fallout, and sometimes I would like ask myself a bunch of like what if questions, like, oh, like had I done this, had I done that, w- would the outcome be the same? But I also try to live my life like not having regrets,
Mhm.
because that's no way to
Yeah,
live.
not
'Cause it'll
looking
like
looking
haunt you.
back all the time.
Yeah, but it's definitely a good life learning experiences. We call them growing pains.
Mhm.
Yeah. So.
Definitely. I think like even for myself too. I think some of my biggest regrets are always how I treated people.
Mhm.
And of course, you think about that and it haunts you. And I think
And
part
it's
of
un-
me,
and it's unintentional to you.
of
Like you
course,
don't you're not actively like going out there and
yeah,
trying to
trying
make
to
people
hurt
feel
people.
bad. Yeah.
Because it's like we're young, we're stupid, and we just don't make the best decisions as humans do.
Mhm.
But then it's like that stuff will always haunt you.
Yeah.
But we can't spend our time looking back, of course. But at the same time, it's like, people say like, I don't live with regrets, and I get the sentiment behind that. And that's great. But if my new perspective now is like, you should kind of like be aware of what you regret because that's how you learn and grow. If you kind of just dismiss it,
Mhm.
wipe it under the rug, how are you growing? And
Right.
for me, I kind of not wear it as a badge of honor, but like I'm aware of what I regret because I know it keeps me accountable to always do better and never make those same mistakes again. So I don't burden myself with the regret, but I know that it's there and I will like keep not keep acknowledging it. But you know what I mean? Like I'm not
Mhm.
gonna pretend it doesn't exist.
Right.
So I think that's very important.
Wow. TED Talk, huh?
There's this
Love
whole
it.
thing's a TED talk,
Yeah.
hopefully.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Who oh sorry, if you could give your younger self advice, what would it be now? We might have covered it already, but in case you had anything else.
Just to be more gentle in myself. And even to this day, like I'm still pretty hard on myself. But I guess that kind of like, keeps me grounded, keeps me on my toes. Because I know that I'm constantly striving for better. I'm always trying to find ways to be a better version of myself than I was yesterday. But I guess just to be more compassionate, just to be kind on the soul, and yeah, and just to deliver that same energy like to, those that I love and care
Yeah.
for or care about.
Yeah, of course. Uh, in the last few years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has improved your life?
Hmm. Repeat that question again.
Yeah. In the last few years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has improved your life?
Well, this is a work in progress. Eating habits, sleeping
Mm.
habits, exercise, they all go hand in hand. Again, to have an optimal mindset, to have, you know, good mental health, you need to encompass all those things, right? You need to eat well, sleep well, exercise regularly. We're tackling it one day at a time. So that's definitely something that I feel gradually has been helping me, really maintain um, that mental health. Yeah.
Right.
Some days are better than others,
Of
but
course.
again, just knowing that I'm aware of it.
Yeah. And it's priority for you, right?
Exactly, exactly. And and holding yourself accountable. Right? I feel that's so important. Yeah, I feel that's what's been helping me.
Nice. Who would you call successful and how would you define success?
Hmm. I feel like to me, success is knowing that the the purpose that I set for myself through the career path that I'm doing, when I can see that it has made a positive impact in someone's life. And again, this is a lifelong journey. And it's honestly such a humbling experience for me whenever, like, after a performance, for example, like, people would come up to me, they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, like, your story, like, inspired me. You know, thank you for this, thank you for that. Like, thank you for, you know, making me, like, feel seen and heard and to remind me that I'm not alone in this journey." Um, it's really such a fulfilling moment, which further reinforces why I'm doing what I'm doing. What I do within music goes beyond the love that I have for music. I really wanna make a difference in people's lives and know that, despite, like, our, like, different backgrounds and our, like, unique, like, journeys and stories and stuff, there's still that common ground, you know? And that's something that I wanna continue, um, emphasizing, within my career.
Mm,
Yeah, and even beyond my career too, like, both my personal and professional life.
of course.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that comes to mind that maybe encompasses that definition of success?
Let's see. Anyone, right?
Yeah, anyone.
Mm, I wanna say, on the top of my head, Demi Lovato.
Mm,
Demi has always been vocal with, like, mental health issues, and, she's been such an advocate, a strong mental health advocate, and also, part of the LGBTQ family as well. So she's definitely someone that I look up to in that sense. Mhm.
I like it. Is there oh, sorry, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you try or what would you be doing now? I saw obviously like singing and everything like that, but is there anything else that comes to mind?
I wouldn't call it fail, but I do have future plans.
Mhm.
You know, Obviously, I'm gonna maximize, with the time that I have here on this earth. And again, tomorrow's never promised. So you want to live each and every single day as if it were your last, right? Live like there's no tomorrow, I guess. Cliche as it sounds. But here's how I see, like, my vision board, my mental vision board. So, like, maybe like 60 years down the line, once I feel like I've accomplished everything that I wanted to accomplish in the music industry, I'm gonna take a step away from the spotlight. Obviously, music will always be a part of me, and like community work, being a public servant. So my goal, and this is a plan. This is a plan that a few of my friends, like, no, I don't think my parents know about this yet, but they will eventually. I would really love to eventually open up a nonprofit to help serve underrepresented and marginalized communities, emphasis on music therapy.
Mm,
So I'm still incorporating the music element to
mhm,
it.
mhm.
And again, I want to continue to be deeply involved and work alongside community members. Yeah.
Nice.
So that would be like my secondary plan.
Right, right.
But
Okay.
it kind of goes contingent to, like, my
Right.
my
It's all
current
connected
plan.
and it's
Yeah,
all
exactly.
related. What is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? Time, money, energy, etc.
Time, you know, for many, many years, like, it's all like, in my head, it was always, hustle, 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 like, and then disconnect yourself from the world. I've definitely learned the hard way. It definitely did a toll on me and those around me. But despite, no matter how busy you are, you can always find time to make time for people that you care about. So I think just being mindful of the usage of time and being able to divvy that up, like, between your passion projects and your career and then your own personal, like, because you need time to recharge for yourself, right? And then also, setting time for, like, for your loved ones, like, for your family and friends. I think that's definitely something that I've learned, over the past few years. And because I've now been actively, been putting in more effort to make time for people, I feel like the interpersonal relationships that I have with people, um, have grown stronger because of it. Yeah. So, I'm still working my ass off. I'm sorry if I wasn't allowed to say
It's all
that.
good.
Yeah. I'm still working extremely hard on my dreams and my aspirations and my career and all these things that I have going on in my life. But, also to make time for people as well. Because, there are people out there, like, who want to be there for you and want to make time for you too.
Mm,
So
I like it.
yeah.
All right, last two. Favorite recent purchase under $50 to $100 that has impacted your life the most in the last 6 months? It's a consumerism question. Anything you bought that was
Six
like
months?
any
Oh,
time period, but like a recent purchase, not too expensive that you're like, oh, I love that I bought this.
what's the
It's
price
great.
limit? The price tag?
I would say $50 to $100 tops.
Hmm. I don't know if there's anything within that price range though.
Oh, more? You think
A
something
little
you
bit
bought
more,
more?
yeah. But definitely more than 6 months ago.
Sure.
Yeah, I think like a year, maybe a little less than a year.
Okay.
Well, I upgraded my studio mic.
Oh, okay. There you go.
It sounds much better now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Good.
I'm glad. You got to continue investing in
Of
yourself,
course.
especially in this industry.
Mm,
So yeah, I was quite excited about that purchase.
nice. I like it.
Yeah.
Last one. Favorite books, movies, videos, articles, media that you share or recommend the most?
I'm not much of a book person, or I probably should.
Any media. It
Should
doesn't
read
fine.
more.
It could be songs, it could be anime, it could be anything that you're like, I think you should, here, check this out. It's great.
Mm. I think
Besides
right.
your own music. Besides your own music. 'Cause we all want to do that. But besides that.
I think Mariah Carey is slept on,
Ah,
so y'all should not sleep on her and actually you know, give her more close attention. I mean, obviously, like, everyone knows who she is, right?
yeah.
But I feel like, in this day and age, like, obviously, like, there's other artists now
Mm,
that, like, that the label, want to prioritize.
yeah,
Like, I understand that. But, you can't forget about the legends who paved the way too, right?
of course.
No, obviously, when you think of Mariah Carey, like, you think of like the greatest hits, like, like Christmas is coming up, so all I want for Christmas is you. But Mariah is more than that,
Mm,
right? And because like I'm one of her, like, she's one of my biggest vocal influences, and like I'm a huge fan of hers. I definitely think y'all should have an open mind and really take the time to hear her music. Like her lyrics, like beyond compare. Like honestly, like, it's
mm,
like AP Lit status.
mm,
And just her story. And I know like she has a reputation of being a diva, whatever. But if you
mm.
actually took the time out to like do research, it's all just a character.
Right.
Yeah, it's an alter ego.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you read her book, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, that
Thank you.
nails it right
Thank
there.
you. Thank you. I was about to say, well, one, I'm also a huge Mariah fan because my mom,
Oh,
my
okay.
mom's biggest, like, they're the same age, I think, but then she's
Yeah.
like, I grew up on Mariah Carey,
Mhm,
but also I read her book, amazing. Shout out to my own book summary website. I read it. It's a great book.
mhm.
Definitely everyone check it out, Yonocruz.com, or just get the book. It's fine.
Wow,
Yeah.
I am very happy to hear
Great.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
That was a great book.
I feel like oftentimes it was. I mean, New York Times bestseller.
Mm,
I think she's oftentimes misunderstood,
mhm,
and she's gone through a lot and
mm,
still is. So I think reading that book really helped bring things into perspective. And I've always been like supportive,
of course.
with her and all that she's done. But again, to those like, who don't really follow her
Mhm.
or have these like perceptions about her, I think she give it a read.
Yeah. She's a pioneer. So definitely I agree with you. Slept on. Um,
Yay!
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right, let's wrap it up. I know we're kind of a little bit over time, but
Oh,
so I like notes. So it's not your fault. So I would like to always end with gratitude, something I also learned from my mom. So the one DNA, what are you grateful for?
I'm just grateful for life. That every day I get to wake up and do what I love, to be surrounded by great people, whether it be my family or my close friends. We all push each other to be the best version of ourselves. We all love and care for each other. And it's something that I will never take for granted. And yeah, just to make every second count. Yeah. And on that note, I just want to say thank you, JR, for this opportunity. It's so nice to reconnect with you again in this way. And thank you for having me on this podcast.
Nice, thank you. The feeling's mutual.
Thank you.
Any final ask or takeaways? Any final ask from the audience aside from following you and everything on that? Or any final takeaways you'd like them to get from our conversation?
Sure. Be kind to yourself. Be gentle to yourself. Chase your dreams. You only live once. Go get him, Tiger.
There you go. Perfect.
God, that was so gross.
Perfect. It was all we need to hear. Great. So where can we find you? I know I have all your links. It'll be in the show
Yeah.
notes, but where can we find you if people want to connect?
Yeah, so you can connect with me on Instagram, TikTok at theoneDNA, TheoneDNA. I'm also on YouTube. I have like music videos on there. I have exciting things coming in the very near future. Well, this airs in December, right?
Yes, it'll be
So,
December.
yeah, so
Yeah,
it's-
it's okay. We'll figure it out.
yeah. Anyway, so
It'll be out by then.
I have exciting things coming up. So if you want to follow me and be a part of that journey, you know where to find me on all socials. And I look forward to seeing you both on and offline. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Well, thank you again, the one DNA, for being here. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot. It was a great conversation, and I know that my audience will also enjoy it as well
Thank
when they
you.
listen to this. So just to wrap it up, so thank you guys again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Again, as he said, reminder to always be kind to others, especially yourself, and that you can always learn something from someone if you just take the time to listen. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you.